Since November 5th, many of you have asked me the same question. Pete, what are we going to do? If you'll bear with me for a few minutes this morning, I promise to answer that question. But first, I need to do some foundational work. Now, growing up in the church, of course, Easter and Christmas were always the biggest worship services of the year. It was that way for almost everyone in the church. Lots of folks who rarely darkened the doors of a church would show up on Christmas and Easter, and everybody would be dressed to the nines, and there would be this festive feeling in the air. It was wonderful. It was a lot of fun. Christmas and Easter ruled the church calendar, but that was for everybody else in the church. For my family, the highest holy day in the church was MLK Sunday. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing that it was the Sunday that caused my father the most stress, and it was the time that he spent the most time preparing his sermon. And he was so good. He would get going and he would pound on the pulpit a little bit, and he would make everybody feel really uncomfortable and squirm a lot in the pews. And as a young man growing up in Kentucky, it was a day of deep pride for me. That was my dad up there. I was proud when he would pound the pulpit, and I was proud when he didn't back down after people spray painted KKK and the N-word all over the inside of the church as a response. MLK was a high holy day in our house, not just because it was and is a Sunday celebrating a gifted preacher and the leader of the civil rights movement, but more importantly, I think because it was a Sunday when we as a congregation, as a faith, reaffirm what it means to be the church in the world, following Dr. King's example. It's always the day each and every year where I find time to sit down and to reread Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail, which is, I think, perhaps the most important theological writing of the 20th century. He wrote that letter in response to 8 white religious leaders of the South who had issues and had issued a statement condemning the movement that he had led and the actions that he had taken, not disagreeing with him on any of the merits of the issue, but rather calling the tactics of the movement unwise and untimely. In response, Dr. King wrote this: "We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I have never yet engaged in a direct action movement that was well-timed, according to the timetable of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with a piercing familiarity. This wait has always meant never." During every major cultural shift, there have always been those who say to wait, to be patient, to give it a chance, to negotiate, to allow time to take its course, to give a little, to get a little. There are lots of those people saying that today in the interest of peace. But as one author wrote, peace without justice is tyranny. So those who say to wait and to see, to calm down and to take a breath, as always, I direct them to letter from Birmingham jail and let Dr. King speak. But still, that doesn't answer the question that I have been asked most frequently in the last couple of months: what are we going to do? So here's how I want to answer that. For the next few minutes, I want to first look at the scriptures from this morning, and then I promise you, I will tell you exactly what we are going to do. So, look at the scriptures. First, from Amos chapter 5, one of the best chapters, I think, in the entire Bible. Look at verse 10. "They hate the one who reproves in the gate, and they abhor the one who speaks truth." We have to answer, first of all, who the they is that they are referring to. Verse 7, Ah, you who turn justice to wormwood and bring righteousness to the ground. So that's the they. Who are the they? Look at verse 11. They are those who trample the poor. Look at verse 12. Ye who afflict the righteous, who take a bribe at the gate, and who push the needy aside. That's the they that is being referred to. They hate the one who reproves in the gate. They abhor the one who speaks the truth. Verse 14, seek good and not evil. Verse 15, hate evil and love good. It's all pretty straightforward there. Those who trample the poor, those who take advantage of the needy, those who use money to manipulate, those who take bribes and curry favor with the powers that be, they are the ones who hate hearing the truth. And if you keep reading here in Amos chapter 5, then you will eventually get to those famous words, take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps, but let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. That's Amos chapter 5. Turn your attention to Galatians chapter 5, another chapter in the Bible that is as good as any other. Verse 1. For freedom, Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not again submit to a yoke of slavery. Stand firm and do not again submit to a yoke of slavery, any kind of slavery, whether it be a slavery that is born of theocracy or autocracy or oligarchy. Stand firm and do not submit. Verse 13, yes, you are free. But do not use your freedom as an opportunity to self-indulge, but through love, become slaves to one another. And verse 14, for the whole law is summed up in a single commandment, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Again, it's pretty straightforward stuff. Which brings us finally to verse 22 in Galatians chapter 5, which relists the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. That's Galatians chapter 5. Friends, there is a battle happening right now in America between two visions of what it means to be a Christian. On one side of that battle, you have a vision of Christianity that is aligned with power and with control, with seeking to legislate morality and subjugate any dissension. A Christianity that holds up financial success as the greatest ultimate good and worships the absolute opposite of every one of the fruits of the Spirit. Not love, but hate. Not joy, but rage. Not peace, but control. You get the idea. And it may call itself Christian, but of course that doesn't make it Christian. In fact, it is the same Christianity from history that pushed the Crusades. It's the same Christianity that murdered indigenous populations. It is that same Christianity that defended slavery and subjugates women and forced conversion therapy. It is the same Christianity that abused children and defended Hitler. It is the same Christianity that told Dr. King while he was sitting in jail in Birmingham to just wait, to slow down, to let time take its course. There is a battle raging in America between two visions of Christianity, and I do pray, of course, that we fall on the side of Dr. King. Now, I promised to answer a question this morning, and that question is, what are we going to do? And I have a really good plan. Ready to hear it? Tomorrow at noon, we are all going to stop and we're going to take a moment to say a prayer. We're going to remember that the arc of the moral universe is long and it is way too slow, but we are going to pray that it does still bend toward justice, and we are going to recommit ourselves, as Dr. King put it, difficult and painful as it is, to walk on in the days ahead with an audacious faith in the future. Then tomorrow night we're going to go and we're going to gather with Muslims and with Jews and with Christians, and we are going to worship at Westchester Reformed Temple in an act of interfaith worship and in relationship building. On Tuesday, we'll gather with our Kerygma class and we'll continue to study Dietrich Bonhoeffer and to learn from him and his mission. On Wednesday, we'll have our choir rehearsals for our kids, and we will continue to raise them to live a life that is filled up with the fruits of the Spirit. On Thursday, we're going to open the doors to this place, and we're going to let in the international community with Living in America, and we're going to remind them that the world is made up of this wonderful diversity that God has created, and we're going to remind the world that all are welcome. Here on Saturday, we're going to gather clothing, and we're going to gather food, and we're going to go into New York City, and we're going to feed people, and we're going to clothe people because Jesus told us to. All week long, we are going to continue to work with the Azizi family. We're going to get their kids enrolled in schools and find work for the adults and find permanent housing. We're going to make sure that they know that they are loved here at Hitchcock and that they are welcome here in the United States of America. All week long, we're going to visit the elderly. We're going to visit the infirmed. We're going to send money to L.A. All week long, we're going to work with asylum seekers and with immigrants to make sure that they are kept safe no matter what comes. We're going to pray for the people of Gaza and for Ukraine and for Sudan. And all week long, we're going to love our families and we're going to love each other. In other words, here's what we're going to do moving forward. We are going to be Hitchcock. Dr. King said, "Let no man pull you so low as to hate him." Will there be times when we need to react to something? Absolutely. Will there be times when we need to get out of our pews and go into the streets and march? Probably. But day by day, we are going to be us. We're going to seek good and not evil. We're going to hate evil and love good. We're going to live each day audaciously displaying the fruits of the Spirit to a world that is in need of the light of Christ. And if God is for us, who could possibly be against us? There are those who say, wait and see. I say, let's work and see. Let's stand firm and see. My friends, I know there is great anxiety in the world right now, and there is anxiety right here in these pews. But let me be the one to remind you this morning that we already know the end of the story. We know that good wins, that God wins, that love wins. We know that no matter how strong the forces of evil are in this world, no matter how powerful the powers and the principalities become, no matter how much money is thrown at the golden calf or how hard they work at distorting the truth, we know that in spite of all of that, our Redeemer liveth. Be not afraid, my friends, for God is in control of all things. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Justice and righteousness flow mingled down together. And because of the promises of our God, I am confident that we shall overcome. Amen.